Hello everyone, welcome back to this channel. This is Rochelle Rosenberg. I am glad to present to you today different kinds of shapes and what does it mean into art. How can we define the art through shapes around us? As today you can see that I have a maple leaf right beside me while I'm drawing, and there are different sorts of maple leaves. Here's one example of the Japanese maple leaves, and they are mostly blooming in different seasons. They are green in summer and they turn its colors whenever the fall is coming. And it's important to understand the role of these kinds of shapes whenever we are doing art. These kinds of shapes are also used into graphic forms. If you check out different kinds of logos, there are big importance, or these kinds of organic shapes have a special role within our business and all kinds of things that we do within this world. As you can see, this is the leaf that I am going to draw, and this is called sugar maple leaves, and it has generally have 5 pointed lobes and deep green colors when it is in the midsummer. So the large maple tree leaves turn a brilliant yellow, orange or red color in the fall. Sugar maple tree leaves measures 3 inches and 6 inches, so that's around 7 to 15 centimeters long and wide. So it can almost cover up my whole face sometimes whenever I pick one. Right, so if we get back into the topic of shapes, what is the definition of shape in art? So in the study of art, a shape is an enclosed space, a bounded two-dimensional form that has both length and width. Shapes are one of the 7 elements of art. So the building blocks that artists use to create images on canvas and in our minds. A shape's boundaries are defined by other elements of art, such as lines, the values, the colors, and the textures. And by adding value, you can turn a shape into an illusion of its 3-dimensional cousin form. So as an artist or someone who appreciates art, it's important to fully understand how shapes are used. So what makes it a shape? If we looked at the drawing that I'm doing, I try to navigate the shapes simply. For example, if we check on the points, they have 5 points on each and every sides. There are 3 ways I can divide this. It's either by rectangle, or it's either by squares, or sometimes I can find it maybe a circle, so that I could just pinpoint those corners into different sets of this within the circle. So shapes are everywhere and all objects have shape. When painting or drawing, you create a shape in 2 dimensions, length and width. You can add value to give it highlights and shadows, making it look more 3-dimensional. However, it is not until form and shape meet. such as in sculpture, that a shape becomes truly three-dimensional. That is because form is defined by including a third dimension, the depth to the two flat dimensions. Abstract art is the most obvious example of the use of shape, but the elements of shape, organic and geometric alike, is central to much, if not most, artwork. So artists use organic shapes and geometric shapes in different ways. Number one, when attempting to create a piece that looks natural, flowing, soft or calming, organic shapes are generally the shapes of choice. Number two, when attempting to create a sense of chaos, anger, or rigidity, geometric shapes are used. Geometric shapes may also be used to create abstract interpretations of things that would normally be depicted as organic shapes. I know it's not easy for you to understand these things right now, but one geometric I can give as an example is the square, the triangle, the circle, and the size of the tools, like if you have a cell phone and just observe that shape of that icon. That's a circle, and there are different kinds of squares on each side. The lamp. Now let's go on to the organic. The organic, it has no definite form. It's like the pears, the fruit, the banana, the water, the leaf, because the organic shapes are not man-made. On the other hand, the geometric shapes are like man-made because we can cut a paper into circle, into square, into triangle. Most of these things are made by humans. So, though crystals are also considered to be geometric despite the fact that they are made in nature, and that's one of the exceptions. And organic shapes are shapes with a natural look and flowing and curving appearance, just like this leaf you see. If you observe all the kinds of leaves around you, they have different kinds of shapes. And organic shapes and forms are typically irregular and asymmetrical. Organic shapes are associated with things from the natural world, like plants and animals. So within this element of arts, I would like to introduce one good information about these shapes. And I think that it will help you a lot so that you could understand the definition of these things, Alright, one artist that I have always been thinking is there are actually few, right? Organic shapes are often used by photographers such as Edward Weston in his remarkably image Pepper number 30 in the 1930s, and by artists such as Georgia O'Keeffe in her Cow's Skull, Red, White, and Blue in the 1931. Organic abstract artists include Wassily Kandinsky, Jean Arp, and Joan Miro. I think that you will remember those names. Edward Weston, George O'Keeffe, Wassily Kandinsky, and Jean Arp and Joan Miro. These are one of the artists that uses organic shapes, and it's important to understand the role of these things. All right. Now, as we go on to my drawing, I know that it's kind of boring for you sometimes maybe to think that how come you could sit down there so many hours just drawing that leaf? Can't you not just press that into a color and dip it into the paper? It would be great if that's so easy, but if you really love art, you should be observant. I can't even say that right. You should be observant about the details, the texture, how does those small lines flow towards each other? Are they overlapping or are they going through beside each other? So it takes practice every time, and I usually don't sit down and draw and upload them. Most of the drawings that I do are actually not uploaded because I think it's important to have that kind of reservation. Is it reservation or preservation? However, I think that you understand what I mean. Anyway, highway. It's important to observe different kinds of shapes. Maybe you can draw a banana, observe how the texture of a banana is, and just start drawing with your pencil and eraser, observing how the bananas are like curvings, the curvings of each and every line from the top to the end and to the bottoms of its width and heights. Right? As you can see here, I actually take leaves or different kinds of things from outside just to get my art into practice, and I think it's important to consider this kind of things. It's the anatomy of art as well, and if you are very, very interested, I think that you can have some sessions with me as well, so I could teach you. But anyway, these kind of leaves are actually one of my favorite leaves to draw. The maple and even the blossoms of the apple. I don't know if you recognize them. They mostly come within the month of May here in Sweden. May, August or something, and then they stay up to 3 weeks. They go along after the cherry blossoms. The cherry blossoms, they usually stay just a week and then they go away. They fall down. And I usually catch them as well. I try to get them and draw them. So it's actually important just to observe these kind of things. So I think I have talked too much. So seeing shapes within objects in the first stage of drawing, artists will often break their subjects down into geometric shapes, just like I told you a while ago. To recognize these shapes, I won't start by drawing them directly or making it difficult for me. So what I have to do is I have to recognize the shapes of each and every sides of the leaves. So for example, since they have 5 points in here, just the large ones, I divide them into squares. And I think that you could recognize the shapes there, right? So this is intended to give me a basis on which to create the larger object with the more details and incorrect proportions. So if you have ever drawn a face and you notice that the eyes are not in the line with the other one, then I believe that you have not divided them into different kinds of shapes, because the face can actually be divided into different shapes, right? And Example is when drawing a portrait of a wolf. An artist might begin with the basic geometric shapes to begin the animal's ears, the snout, the eyes, and head. This forms the basic structure from which the artist will create the final work of art. Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man in the 1490s used geometric shapes of circles and squares to define and comment on the anatomy of human male. So try to observe the face or a skull of a human or an animal, and try to recognize the different shapes that you can find in there. And I think that from that you can start learning the right proportions whenever you draw. There are also an exception about these proportions, because there are some art that I actually did that I intended to draw human that has very long body, and I forgot the name of that art, but that's also one type of an abstract. Alright, so as we have known, organic shapes are individual creations of the artist. They have no names, no defined angles, no standards, and no tools that support the creation. They can often be found in nature, where organic shapes can be as amorphous as cloud or as precise as a leaf, as you can see there. So I just hope that this had helped you a lot, and I hope that it had encouraged you so that you too can draw probably much better than what I can. And that's it for today. I just want to encourage you to continue to watch this film until the end, and please enjoy. I'm gonna be back to you for the next couple of weeks, just to give you much more larger scales of drawing probably, or some painting. Right, and if you have any questions, please write it down below. So keep drawing, keep doing what you want, keep observing. I'm gonna come back for more content for you artisans.